Hi everyone, it's Niiamin. I'm finally back with a new video. And yes, this one's been long overdue since last year. So the cosplay was actually finished already back in December, but I kept putting off editing this video for quite a few reasons. Actually, it's massive. I had tons of footage to go through and I really wanted to put it together properly for you. But the wait is over, and today I'm showing you how I made Aegon Targaryen's Season 2 armor. Luckily for me, there were tons of behind-the-scenes footages and even a whole documentary about the costume department, which showed something the series didn't. The armor actually looked good. Of course, taste is taste. Some people might prefer something more like demon's armor or something covered in dragons, and sure, that could have been cool. But this is what we got. Since season 1, I knew I wanted to cosplay something from House of the Dragon. I was waiting for a set of armor because, trust me, you don't want to see me sewing. But the first ones just didn't catch me, or they looked way too difficult, like demons. But this one, yeah, also very difficult. I just didn't realize that after planning it. So after seeing this armor only once in one episode, I decided to do it as a cosplay. Yeah, it alone makes probably an unlikely choice. I went for it anyway, as there were a lot of, and with that I mean a lot of reference pictures about everything on this armor, except the legs. I had a great insight into the details, and these pictures made my job a whole lot more easier. Stick around until the end, because I will show you step by step how I brought this armor to life. And if you got any kind of opinions on the design or the armor, drop them in the comments. I would love to hear what you think. Also, don't forget to subscribe and like the video. Maybe it will motivate me to make new content. I really want to bring some kind of new content, but this is another topic. I started with the body, and I knew I wanted to cover it with Warbler to make the whole armor last. What I wasn't sure about how to go about it. At first I tried building it as one piece and then covering it, but that looked awful. I cut out each panel one by one from 2mm foam and covered them with Warbler. The back middle pieces were a bit trickier. They needed that kind of crack line on the sides, so I had to build each of them separately. Once the armor was fully built, I covered the whole thing in filler spray. Now, filler spray always has a couple of uses. First, you can sand down any uneven areas like warble bubbles. Second, it lets you do the texturing. Since this armor is supposed to be made of Valyrian steel, I needed the surface to feel structured and realistic. To get that effect, I used aluminum foil balls, pressing them into the freshly sprayed filler. A quick tip: the temperature and humidity make a huge difference. I was working outside in the German winter, which gave me plenty of time, over 10 minutes, to press the foil and get the texture right. But if you try this in the summer, you will have to work super fast, or the filler will dry before you even get started. For the neck piece, I did the texturing in a similar way, but with one key difference. It's built out of foam and coated with clear epoxy resin. The front and back armor pieces on the tights are also made from 2mm high-density EVA foam. And yes, I totally used googly eyes for the rivets. Every single part of this armor is covered in either epoxy or Warbler. I knew from the start that I would spend over 400 hours on this cosplay, so I wanted it to be as durable as possible. And it really is. It survived a snowstorm and a horse for the shooting in a pouring rain. Since I get bored just by building or just by painting, I primed and painted each piece separately. Finding the exact color was a bit of a struggle, but I ended up using Vallejo's metallic color called Exhaust Manifold. Even though the real armor isn't visibly weathered, I almost always do this because it just looks better on camera. Finally, I added gold to some edges to show where the metallic layer would naturally be damaged, revealing another metal color underneath. Shoulder was actually a real challenge. The shape of the ornament is very unique and the motif is not something one could sculpt out of foam or even clay. As it's something more historical, I went with a real leather. As to cut such a delicate motif is not possible with Cricut into leather, after I drew the motifs in Photoshop, I let it draw by my Cricut. To make the edges of the cut leather look nice, there are a bunch of products made specifically for this task. But I went with a cheaper method, mixing wood glue with water, spreading it with a cloth and then polishing with a leather edge tool. All of these tools are available in inexpensive starter sets, so if you are just trying out leather work like me, this method works just perfectly. Once all the pieces were ready, I glued them onto the armor using epoxy glue. After that, I primed and painted them just like the rest of the armor. I actually use different priming methods depending on the material. For Worbla, I stick with the good old wood glue method. For 3D prints on non-soft surfaces like epoxy-coated builds, I use Vallejo's surface primer. And for foam, I usually go with hex flag. And now, we are at the helmet. This part took me the longest and it's also where I finally decided I really need a Cricut. The helmet is a mix of techniques. The sides are foam coated with Worbla, the main helmet is foam and the crown is 3D printed. But the decoration on top is made out of 222 pieces of cardboard. I didn't want to model it in 3D because I wasn't sure of the exact angle needed to bend over the helmet. Using extra Worbla over foam? Too thick. Pure foam? Even with 1mm sheets, it looked dumb. So I went old school. Glued 2 sheets of cardboard together, traced by design through carbonless paper, a seriously underrated tool that I use all the time, and cut out every single piece, yes, all 222 by hand. I made a base from EVA foam, sanded it into shape, and then glued the pieces on with basic hot glue. Don't worry, it won't be visible as long as you don't use too much. After everything was glued on, ornaments, the little resin printed dragon head on top, and the crown, it was finally ready for the epoxy coat. You can also see my Castle coffee machine in the background. The making of video, you can find it here. There is honestly no cosplay in my house without filler spray, for 2 reasons. First, it helps me see everything in the same color, which is super useful when I'm working with 2-3 different materials. Second, it makes it easier to spot spots that needed sanding, they are not smooth enough. I actually place most of the scratches and dents exactly where they appear in the reference pictures. The helmet has a slightly different painting as the other parts, so I used the paint I used everywhere else. After that, I use my golden acrylic color to dry brush some paint on it. The arms were a bit tricky for their form. I broke it down to the base form and built it up on it. Finally, used some Worbla to cover. Unfortunately, I was here already in crunching mode for a photoshoot in December and I don't have that many footage. The legs were honestly the hardest part to reference. I only had 1 usable picture from the castle scene and 1 blurry one, so basically just 1. I coated my leg in masking tape over clinch film and drew in the details. It's a well-known patterning method among cosplayers. If you wish to know more, I recommend searching cosplay pattern on YouTube. There are good tutorials for this topic. Here I actually only epoxy coated the bottom, the areas those rubbed the most to my shoes to spare some drying time. The soft parts of the armor are made of 3 pieces: the main shirt, the chainmail skirt, and a small shirt that holds the arm chainmails. In the first version, I used Velcro to hold the chainmail on the arm, but that ended up destroying the fabric whenever the Velcro wasn't covered. So I built a better system. The shirt is basically a gambesson with lining. Fun fact, this was actually my third gambesson that I sewed last year, and honestly I'm very happy I haven't had to make another one since. The fabric was a whole story in itself. I had really good behind the scene reference photos which helped me figure out what I needed, but finding the exact color and pattern was tricky. Even though I had access to some business and theater only fabric sellers in Germany. Luckily, at that time I was working at a university specialized in fashion design, so I could ask the teachers about the right type of fabric. They helped me a lot, and with the search terms they suggested, I actually found one fabric that was very close to the original. For the belt, I bought a real leather belt. Unfortunately, I couldn't find a black one that would work for the surface, so I decorated it and then painted it black. The belt features two dragon buckles that hold the sword. Since the buckles are 3D printed from resin, they aren't strong enough to hold weight on their own. To fix that, I added a hidden leather strap on the back, which actually supports the straps of my sword shed. It's easy to change if the buckles break, as it happened after my last photoshoot in August. So it's a method I will definitely use in the future again. The chainmail skirt is a funny story. The shoulder chainmail pieces are resin printed, but even with flexible resin they are still a bit delicate. I didn't want to risk printing a whole skirt, not only because of the time and costs, but also because my printing plate is only 20 × 12 centimeters. So here is what I did. I ordered a real metallic chainmail skirt, took it apart, cut out the front and the back, resized the belt and pinned it together into a smaller side. The dragon scales are all resin printed individually, almost 300 in total, including the ones on the arms. I painted them black and glued them onto a strap, which I then attached to the skirt. This way, if any scales break, I can replace them easily without touching the skirt or the other scales. The resin-printed chainmail itself is made from 3 smaller segments. The largest my printer can handle, which I sewed together. And yes, every second scale is gold, so naturally I made them gold. And finally, the wig. I went with a long wavy style, a blonde 613. The problem was that the silver wigs were too silver and the blonde ones were too yellow. So I decided to try a trick which I would have needed so many times in my life before, and honestly I'm so glad I discovered it, at least now. Here's what I did. I applied a purple mask, basically the same as a purple shampoo, but in a mask form. Directly to the wig, left it on for a few minutes and then washed it out. Just make sure you don't get it on the wig cap or it will turn it purple as well. It's a bit tricky, but it works really well. The effect lasts until the next wash, and the best part is you can redo it anytime. If you want a step-by-step tutorial, I linked my tutorial on TikTok in the description. I tried my best to stay close to the original reference and historical looks, even though the materials I chose aren't exactly historical. Maybe one day I will get to do that for real. It took me 4 months to complete, finishing in the middle of December last year. And honestly, it was totally worth it. This is one of my most durable cosplays. I've already worn it 6 or 7 times and it only ever needed minor repairs. I'm really happy with how it turned out and I can't wait to wear it even more. I would love to hear your thoughts. What do you think about the armor itself, my version, or the design in general? Feel free to leave your opinions respectfully in the comments or tell me which armor from the series is your favorite. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and to finish things off, I've got some showcase video for you. Enjoy!